Imagine, a podcast series by Imagine Theatre.
Hello again and welcome to episode 85 of this podcast series. It's the middle of August, 3 months to go until panto rehearsals begin, and this time we're going to meet a performer with 25 years of panto experience.
For more information, go to their website at www.imaginetheatre.co.uk.
In the last episode, we continued our occasional series by taking a closer look at one of the popular pantomime titles, Mother Goose. Don't worry if you missed that or any of the other previous episodes, because they are all still available. And if you've missed them, so far we've talked with celebrities and backstage team members, practitioners and academics about how pantomime is produced, its history and its future. So make sure you check them out where you normally get your podcasts, and don't forget to subscribe to the series so that you don't miss any future episodes. Well, this time we're going to meet a man with more than 25 years of panto experience. He's played everything from Buttons to Idle Jack. I'm delighted to say I've been joined by the stage, television and film actor Nathan Guy. How are you?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you. 25 years. Oh, that was a shocker to hear you say that.
Yeah, well, of course, you were only 2 years old when you began your panto career.
Very young.
So it all began in Southend, I think, didn't it? Where did your interest in theatre and pantomime come from?
Oh, gosh. Okay, so my father used to direct some Amdram shows. He was also a choir master and chorister and all sorts of things like that. And at the ripe old age of 3, you weren't far off. At the ripe old age of 3, I played the mosquito in Alice Through the Looking Glass, I think. And my mum was Alice. And somehow I remembered all of my lines. And that's when I got bitten by the bug, I guess.
Or bitten by the mosquito.
The mosquito, absolutely. But yeah, I haven't been off stage since, is the truth.
So do you remember going to see panto as a child, and what sort of stuck out for you and where you saw it?
Well, you see, there's always a story. I joined dance classes when I was 3, and my dance school supported one of the local pantos. So sort of before I actually remember seeing panto, I was probably, one of the babes in a sparkly sequin costume before I'd even actually seen one. So I sort of saw the backstage before I saw it as an audience member.
Not many kids will have done that.
Yeah, I was, really lucky. But my first panto would have been, oh gosh, I don't know which way round it was. It was either at the Cliffs Pavilion in Southend, or it would have been at the Palace Theatre in Southend. But we were a really strong theatre family. So I remember seeing panto in Grays, Southend. We came to London to see them. Panto was a big thing growing up, every Christmas with my grandparents or my parents.
So when you first appeared in the Junior Ensemble, what sort of impact did that have on you? Because you'd never seen panto before, and even if you've been to theatre before, if you haven't seen panto, it's unique, it's very different. What were your first impressions?
Colour, volume, and sense of fun. And I don't really think that sort of changed, even at the ripe old age that I am now. Yeah, I just remember being wowed by the magic of it. Even though I was watching it from the wing, even, I remember still sort of wondering how things were done or how people got to make the whole audience laugh. It was very hypnotising.
And I think as well for children in pantomime, in the Junior Ensemble, there may have been 2 or 3 different groups, but there is a real sense of family, isn't it? And a sort of collaborative experience, which you probably never experienced before.
A sort of parallel universe happened to me. When I was a child in panto in the Junior Ensemble, I played the shrunken version of Wishy Washy. In Aladdin, Wishy Washy gets into the washing machine and they accidentally put him on shrink, and out comes a child dressed in the same costume. Well, that was me. And then many years later, working for Imagine in Porthcawl, exactly the same thing happened. But I was Wishy Washy and I had several children play the smaller version of me, which is quite a feat considering I'm not very tall anyway.
I wish I could tell you just how many children I've put through the mangle in that scene. So performing was obviously a really big part of your life from a very early age, but at what point did you decide that's what I want to do forever?
I think when I started, I thought I was going to be a dancer, and I concentrated on dance as the main, string to my bow. And then suddenly I sort of realized that it was really hard work being a dancer and that actually charming people, I guess, sounds really smug. I don't mean it at all. Charming people was sort of where the magic was for me, and the storytelling sort of took over. But then also, through a different education and stuff like that, as I grew up, I sort of found a mixture of the storytelling being influenced by my dancing background and how they're intertwined. If you're going to tell a good story, you need to be able to, put it in your body, put it in your face.
But playing the comic is something very different, not so much story driven. Have you always had comedy bones, or was that something you picked up maybe watching comedians in the shows as a junior ensemble member?
I think that comes back to that sort of lovely thing about charming. Being funny is part of being able to charm your audience. I think that telling a story in itself can be charming and therefore funny, depending on the way that you tell it. I think the comic has that role of making people laugh, and I think I do have comedy bones. A lovely actress who I've worked with told me that comics have to make the audience love them or be the alternative love interest, and there's sort of a wibbly line between that as well. Yeah, storytelling and charming the audience, making them your friend, and also making them feel safe and ready for a laugh, sort of opens the doors for all the other characters to be bad or extremely funny, like the dame, or the hero to be robust and adventurous.
So at some point you obviously thought this could be a career and I need to go and get trained, and you went to Aberystwyth and then Central School of Speech and Drama.
I sort of thought that it was the only thing I was good at, was making people laugh, was recounting stories. Even when I was in youth theatre, I always did the panto. It never felt like a sort of a big change. It just always felt sort of natural.
And that's all part of it as well, because if you're relaxed, if it does feel natural to you, then you're comfortable and it's easier for the audience to relate to you, particularly the younger members of the audience who want to be in your gang and want to be your mate.
I suppose that sort of leans towards the other string to my bow, is that I work with children and I've always worked with or for children. And I think that's another part of being panto comic as well, is that you have to bring the children along the ride, as well as their mums and dads and grannies. The comic needs to be there to remind them that, it's silly and it's okay to laugh along and enjoy all of the slapstick and the custard pies.
Now, I have to say, since you trained, and I mentioned Aberystwyth, University of Wales, and then Central School of Speech and Drama, since then, you've done so many different things, both on stage, small screen, film as well. Obviously, you still enjoyed panto, and we'll talk about that again a little bit later on, but you've had such an incredible career already, haven't you?
I think the through line of it all is still working with children and for children. The telly work that I've done has either been aimed at a children's audience or playing a child on screen myself. Yeah, I've just been very lucky to have a young face that fitted sometimes.
And they're completely different disciplines, though, aren't they? Film, television is completely different to theatre, let alone pantomime. But they're the skills that you picked up either in training or from experience.
I guess so, but then that's the truth in the story. And also finding, the sparkle in the character or the sparkle in your eye, even when you're being, very straight in your telling of a story. But there's lots of, brilliant actors that have, trod that fine line. Charlie Chaplin, Michael Crawford, all of those brilliant, excellent actors that do pathos as well as huge comedy roles.
I think as well that, you've done a fair amount of children's theatre, and in many ways, of all the other things that you've done, that's the closest thing to panto. But children's theatre, like panto, is so important, isn't it? Because, and you'll know this from working with children and teaching children, their first experience of theatre can be life-changing, can't it?
It's a place where it's safe to sort of try out things or to look silly without worrying about what other people think. And that's that's really exciting to open that door for young people, whether that be as a teacher or whether that be as an actor on stage. It's a really humbling job, and I sort of am totally addicted to it.
Do you remember the first panto you ever did as a professional adult performer?
Yes, I was Idle Jack in Dick Whittington, I think. That was in Wales, and that was one of those ones that you cut your teeth on, because it's a mixture of professional theatre actors and training students. And I was lucky enough to be the comic for that. And that was my first experience of doing 3 show days, and the energy and and the stamina that you need for a 3 show day.
Yeah, you got that experience behind you, though. You know, all those junior ensemble performances that you'd done. A lot of performers may never have done panto until they trained, and then it offers so much work to professionals every year. They might find themselves in panto having never done it before. But do you think those days in the junior ensemble prepared you for that?
I hope so. I think they did. I think that feeling of being like larger than life and confident and brave, I think definitely. But in that very first panto, one of the directors that has directed for Imagine, Richard Cheshire, was the director of my very first panto.
Oh.
And on the run up to my first run, we sort of went on a whirlwind of watching about 8 different pantos and meeting casts and crews. And I was very fortunate to watch the show and then go straight back stage and then sort of speak to some of the people in the show, or slowly sort of, building up my confidence for my first debut.
Whenever I speak to anybody, we'd never met before, but we've worked at the same venues, we've worked with the same directors, and Janice Dunn is one of those. But
yes,
I was staggered. I think it was the following year after you played Idle Jack, that you worked with somebody that I've known since the late 1970s, because she was a teacher on the degree course that I did in performing arts. She went on to choreograph, movement direct on all sorts of projects, including the movie Little Shop of Horrors, and
yes,
Santa Claus, the movie with Dudley Moore. I'm talking about Pat Garrett. It's such a small world, but that was, again, in the early days of your career, wasn't it?
Unusually, I played the hero in that piece. I played the prince. But yeah, I was very blessed to work with Pat. She's a sensation and a ball of energy. And I think that's why we got on so well, because, neither of us could sit still. We were always sort of talking about how to make the next scene more exciting or the stakes even higher.
It was only maybe a couple of years later that you started to get involved with TV, I think, BBC Worldwide. When did the TV career start proper for you?
Oh my goodness, it was just by accident, bizarrely linked to Pat. So the musical director on that show, which was called Goblins Don't Scare Us, she did a job with the BBC and they needed some singers. And I just, knew the tunes that she was playing. And so I popped along and sang a few of the tunes. And then through that, I met, some of the producers and so on and so on. But I think the most exciting thing in terms of the voice work and stuff like that for the BBC was doing Lazy Town. That was just probably like the most out-of-body experience of voicing a character that is already pre-loved and knowing that you can, do justice to a character that's already out there. That was amazing. I've just been lucky and in the right place.
I think the incredible thing about children's television is it's so impactful, isn't it? And you don't realise just how far-reaching it is, for the BBC, or whether it be CBBC, CBeebies, or other channels like Nickelodeon and Disney. They reach so many kids. It's just an extension of panto in many ways, isn't it?
Oh, I could tell you stories. So for the Nickelodeon programme that I was in, I had to play the Ugly Prince. As he was called, and it was again by chance. The actor who had been paid to play the character unfortunately couldn't commit to the job last minute, and so I got hired, but I had to wear his costume, and his boots were far too long for me, And I had to propose to the princess in that particular episode. And when I went to go down on one knee, I fell head over heels because the boots wouldn't allow me to bend my knee. And I suddenly realized, it was just panto, and the crew had to stop filming because I'd made them laugh so much. And the director shouted cut and then said, "Can you do it again exactly the same way, but we're not going to laugh this time." So yeah, always the fool.
So over the years, again, you've played just about every panto comic, Genie and Aladdin and others. What do you love about it so much?
Oh my goodness. I know a lot of other comics. This is not their favourite bit necessarily, but I love the song sheet. I love the bit where I get to talk to the kids and find out who their favourite character is or who's brought them to Pantoland. I love that feeling. It's like a 10-minute show that's completely different to the whole entire rest of the show. And every show is so different. I love being exhausted by falling over. It just makes me happy. Last year, I got to fall off of the stage, I think about 74 times. And every day before it happened, I would get, giddy with excitement about me surprising the audience and knowing that they would care that I'd fallen off the stage, potentially onto some sort of disastrous drum kit or something, injuring somebody, but then just bounce up again and go into a song straight after. It was exciting. It's exciting.
I agree with you about the song sheet, and I think for me it sums up one of the things about panto that I enjoy the most, and that is the jeopardy of panto. That could be, random people shouting out in the audience, but it can also mean 4 children coming up on stage, stealing the show, coming out with random comments. It's part of that, feel of panto that you have to be on your toes at all times, isn't it?
Yeah, it's electric and scary, but addictive. I think the reason why I can't imagine a Christmas without doing panto is because it is so addictive, that sort of jeopardy, as you say, that keeping on your toes. But every moment is like that. When the giant comes out or there's a dragon, that's real for that first moment, falling off of the stage. That's the first time our audience get to see that moment. And that is so exciting and addictive.
Okay, you've been in Rotherham for a number of years now. I've lost count of how many it is, but that's a really nice feeling as well, because there is a certain relationship with returning performers and their audience, because you know that people come back to see you every year. You know that the people who are sitting out in front of you are there because of you. Maybe the Dame is a returning actor as well, and that builds up a certain rapport with the audience, which you don't very often get anywhere else.
Absolutely. I've been blessed working for Imagine. I worked for 4 years at Porthcawl, and now I'm 4 years at Rotherham. And strangely, the sort of penultimate show or final show so far on the list has always been Cinderella. And I think there is nothing better than being Buttons with an audience that knows you and loves you already. You go out and you feel, it's palpable to feel that affection that they have for you, especially when you're a character that gets to mix comedy with pathos. I've been very blessed. Cinderella so far has been my favourite at Rotherham, but obviously my new favourite will be Robin Hood when I arrive at Christmas this year.
Well, that's an interesting one as well, isn't it? Because Robin Hood is, I think, a new one for Imagine. It's certainly one that isn't as popular as Aladdin and Cinderella and Jack and the Beanstalk. When I say popular, I mean it's not staged as often as some of those others. Is it a panto you've done before?
It is, strangely. I've actually done it twice before.
Wow.
Can you believe? I can't even believe that I'm saying that out loud. I've done a Robin where Robin was a principal boy, and I've done it where Robin was a chap. And the magic tree, that gag fits in so well into that one. I've fallen in love with the fairy from the woods. It's easy to say that. There's all sorts of great sort of traditional panto moments in Robin Hood that sort of fits in seamlessly.
Yeah, the magic tree is a very old routine that is seldom performed as well. And sometimes Robin Hood is mixed into Babes in the Wood, so it might be Robin
Yes.
Hood and the Babes in the Wood, but it's very different to many of the others, isn't it? And I think one of the joys of panto is being able to try new things, do different stories occasionally. Imagine her trying very successfully Treasure Island and The Little Mermaid and so on. And it's good because otherwise you end up with the same 3 or 4 pantos in rotation, don't you?
Yeah, I think I've done Aladdin more times than I have fingers. But, they're magical stories that deserve to be told again and again and shared with a brand new audience every year.
Now, I mentioned at the very beginning as well that you teach. In fact, you've been teaching today. When did that begin? Is that something you've always done alongside your performing career?
The simple answer to that is yes. I was one of those people that other people said to me, oh, our son, daughter just loves hanging out with you, always talks about your chats or all of that stuff. And I guess that sort of enthusiasm to show children, the wonders of storytelling or creating a character or pretending to be a character, to share my enjoyment of doing that on stage and on screen is a gift in itself. Yeah, as I've got older, I found that even easier and enjoyed it more. But it also means I get to flex my directing skills and test out looking at how to tell a story from a different point of view, not to be the one, standing there in front of the audience, but to help other people get there. I'm sort of addicted to that a little bit too.
And I know quite a few people in the business who have also taught, and they have said sometimes one of the most rewarding things is not to necessarily be in a show yourself, but to see some of your pupils or students having success, when they've become performers. Is that something you've seen?
I think it's that moment where they stand tall or they realise that they're other than they are. And yeah, I have seen that. And also success as well, getting into drama schools and being in their first professional productions. And yeah, that's it's another moment of joy to share with somebody else, to see their success. And yeah, it's really good. It's really good.
And sometimes as well, in school shows, for instance, you can see talent immediately. But I think one of the greatest things about children's performances, youth theatre and so on, is that they have no fear. They really do throw themselves into it, don't they?
I think one of the funniest things that's happened to me is that one year I directed a show at a school, and this one particular child came in week after week after week. She had a very small part in the production, but she came with so much enthusiasm and a smiley face. So then the following year when I returned, and she returned as well, I was like, you've earned yourself a main part. You weren't sure last year, but this year you're going to succeed and really stretch your acting chops. And she did, and she was amazing. But it's that enthusiasm and how that confidence builds. It's really important. It's really impressive when you see it in others.
I totally agree. And whether or not they become performers, it helps them in later life with so many things. Confidence, for instance, great example. How have you managed to juggle this? Because we've talked about panto, we talked about the children's theatre, film, television and stuff that you've done. How have you managed to carry on teaching while you're doing all that as well?
Oh, I'm very blessed. I've got very understanding bosses and teams that work around me. But I also, just to do a small plug, I also volunteer for a charity called Seen and Heard, which is based in Camden in London, that links together children from Somerstown and Camden with theatre professionals. And through its unique mentoring system, they encourage children to write their very first plays. And then those plays are put on stage with professional costume designers, directors, actors, the whole kit and caboodle. And it's the children that get up and get the round of applause at the end of the play that they've written. Yeah, it is. It's that moment of standing tall and going, I did that, and this is how it's realised. And I can be creative and I can be imaginative. I've got a voice to share. And so that's how I juggle it all, because I have to. And also sleep's not that important. And chocolate and bananas and coffee also really help.
But for you, I mean, there's no better reward. It's quite an emotional reward as well, isn't it, when you see children excelling in something like that?
But as you said as well, it's not necessarily that they'll become playwrights or actors or directors themselves, although they may. It's the fact that when we meet them, in week one, they're looking at the floor, they're feeling a bit shy, or they're being really, really loud and sort of, just boisterous. But by the end of the sort of first 6 weeks, you're having conversations with them about, how they see the world. And they can share that with any adult because they've got the confidence to do that. That's, it's magical. It's really magical. Theatre is magical. And that's why I never want to stop doing any of it, really.
So we're in the summer holidays now. By the time this podcast goes out, what do you do during the summer then? You sit around twiddling your fingers and thumbs, or have you got other jobs lined up?
Oh, I'm directing a show in Camden with 45 children in it that we're going to write together. I do the editing, they do the writing. So that's the first 2 weeks of summer holidays fixed. Then definitely a moment in the sun for me. And then, of course, we've got the panto photo shoot. So it's all go and mix in a few auditions and things in between.
Well, you keep yourself busy, that's for sure. And photo shoots are already upon us. So that already starts the countdown to this year back in Rotherham. So anybody who is thinking whether they should buy tickets to go to Rotherham this year, Nathan is back. So yes, you should. But I've got to finish with, I'm going to put you on the spot actually. I'm going to finish with one simple question. Of all the pantos that you've done or seen, what is your favourite panto title? You
said it's a simple question. It is far. It is far from simple.
It's a simple question. It's not a simple answer.
I think if I really thought about it, I think it comes down to that magical moment. I think when I was a kid, my favourite one is Jack and the Beanstalk. Easy. It's an easy answer because the moment when the giant comes out, you're in the room with a giant for the very first time. But also, as a performer and an actor, because Jack is your brother, is the comic's brother quite often in that show. And you get to have that kind of stage bromance or, and you get to pick on mum. And I sort of love that family facing the giant together. I think there's something in that sort of mix that really pleases my soul somehow, the family facing adversity together and triumph it. But yeah, being in the room with a giant is really exciting too.
Yeah, it has everything, doesn't it? I think it's the adventure, it's the pathos of having to sell the family cow and all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
But that scene in the Imagine shows, back of the stage, massive double doors open, dry ice everywhere, or smoke, haze, whatever, and the giant steps out. And when the giant steps out, you can hear a pin drop in any auditorium, but then when it starts walking towards the audience, that takes it to another level. And that is an incredible moment, isn't it?
It's just brilliant. Like, everything is so much bigger on stage usually, and then suddenly we meet the giant. Yeah, it's really exciting to take yourself to that place, and the audience help so much with their cheers and their boos and their excitement to meet that giant. It's all very addictive and exciting to share that with them.
Well, listen, wish you every success in Rotherham again this year. Not that you need it, in Robin Hood. Been an absolute pleasure catching up with you, Nathan. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Oh, thank you. It's been a joy. Cheers. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you. And that's it for now, I'm afraid. In the next episode, we're going to be finding out about the role of the production manager with Andy Nurse. So please remember to subscribe through your favourite podcast app and join me, Martin Ballard, next time for episode 86.
Thank you for listening to the latest edition of Just Imagine, the podcast series from Imagine Theatre. And you can find out more by going to www.imaginetheatre.co.uk.